again and again and again and again. So for today's video, we were gonna make a Q&A portion about communication breakdown. So come on.
Okay. From the word itself, breakdown, wherein it is a failure to communication between the two persons. It usually occurs when the communication is incomprehensible to one party or entirely absent between the two people. For example, communication breakdown occurs when a couple fights and they refuse to speak to each other. And this is when the communication breakdown happens, or otherwise known as silent treatment. Refusing to communicate is one of the most common forms of communication breakdown. Of course, if we are not communicating well and we really follow the process as the communication becomes successful, then we should expect some failures and misunderstanding in the conversations. It also occurs when the two parties disagree or they say something offensive or hurtful to the other group. There are several ways to fix communication breakdown. In instances, when one party is simply having difficulty in understanding and slowing down verbal communication or attempting to explain two problem areas, are two ways to ensure to avoid communication breakdown. And also, when two parties are fighting, sometimes an apology or admittance of wrongdoing can fix a communication breakdown. So one of my suggestions is apology. There are 4 types of barriers to communication: physical, psychological, cultural, and linguistic barrier. Number 1, physical barrier. A physical barrier is the result of disturbances in our surroundings, which leads to ineffective communication. Its examples include inadequate equipment, such as outdated computers, internet connectivity, background noises, poor lighting, and many more. Basically, climate, distance, and the time gaps between the sender and the receiver are the major causes of concerns when it comes to the barrier of effective communication. Psychological barriers. It is a strong emotion like anger, sadness, nervousness, and personal grudges in our life that can affect our mental well-being, and it makes the communication less than effective. Like for me, example, I'm not that good in speaking in English. As you can see, I am struggling in speaking it, but I am not good enough to do essays with good grammar and fluency. I'm being honest with you guys, so you will not be expecting from me that I am good in speaking the international language. The barrier there is I'm not that confident. It results to my anxiety and overthinking that I am not good enough in everything. A cultural barrier. It is a communication within an organization. When people from different cultures who might speak different languages, having different beliefs, or uses different gestures and symbols to communicate, might be the barrier to communication. Example, I have a friend from Canada. As we all know, I grew up there and just continue studying here in the Philippines. Fast forward, when my mother was about to prepare our food, and she was about to give it to us when the spoon fell. And my sister says, "Huy, may darating na bisita." And we all laugh after that. And I saw Leah trying to understand what we say. She can speak Tagalog, but the belief is the one she can't understand. A language barrier is a figurative phrase used to refer linguistic barrier. Difficulties in communication experienced by people originally speaking the language, or even some dialects in some cases. Example, dialects. People can technically speak the same language, but dialectical differences can create misunderstanding and gaps in the communication. Effective communication. Its examples include analytic such as computers. Okay. It is important to know the cause of communication breakdown. Because if we didn't know the cause of communication breakdown, the person whom we're communicating with might misinterpret, misunderstood, and get chance to be offended. So if in case, we should know the cause of communication breakdown, so we could give our explanation, elaborate what you mean, and we can give an immediate solution to the communication breakdown. The goal here is to avoid communication breakdown. So, as much as possible, be quick-witted and be clear for what you say. Okay. Communication breakdown is part of our lives. Every day, we encounter different failed communication that we regretted for not to do anything and be clear for the misinterpretations. All I can advise is remove distractions. Whether you are communicating in person or via email, make sure you're in a quiet environment so you could deliver your message accurately. Build up your confidence by asking for feedback and observe others. Do not hesitate to ask questions, and we should encourage others to do the same. Asking questions, whether how trivial, eliminate doubts and misconceptions. We should ask questions for us to be clear with anything. Have clarity of thought before speaking out. Before you try and get your points across to others, make sure you are very clear on yourself, on what you are hoping to convey. Arranging your thoughts before verbalizing helps you to communicate well and be more clearly and succinctly. Be direct and concise. I think this is the most credible idea that I would be suggesting to avoid communication breakdown, because being direct and concise shortens the explanation and it is easy to understand. On-point conversation leads to better communication. The questions were tough, huh? but I expected this. I know it would be a great help for anyone that is struggling in their communication on how will they communicate in their everyday lives without experiencing breakdowns. I know it is part of our lives. We encounter different failed communications within our house or outside. But it would be great that if we will learn or we will practice on how we will avoid communication breakdown. That's why I am pleased to be part of this Q&A. Despite of being not fluent in speaking English, I passed the challenge. That's why I am thankful for the invitation. Thank you. Okay. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.